Hi everybody, it's Diane from SewBatik, and it's pattern review day. Today's pattern is a dress. It is the McCall's. I'm going to show you two pattern covers here. McCall's 7432, which I believe is the original one that you might have in your pattern collection. The other one and the newer version of it is 8064. I think what a lot of the pattern companies are doing right now is they may be updating and upgrading and changing and modernizing some of their patterns. And as a result, the original numbers are getting discontinued and then they come back as other numbers. And so don't get discouraged if you can't find something, or if I'm referencing something that doesn't make sense to you. I remember having this version of it in our shelf still, but when I went to try to add to the size ranges, I had to buy the new one. So there are two different versions of this. The patterns are exactly the same. So the covers are just a little bit different. But enough about the pattern jackets. Today I wanted to share with you this dress because I've really wanted to create a dress for the fall season, and I love wearing dresses, whether it be casual or a little bit more formal. This dress here is what I made, and we used our cotton jersey knit. The pattern does recommend cotton jersey. It has the stretch indicator on the back of the pattern, and it is, let's see here, yes, it's recommended for 60-inch wide fabric. Our fabric is 72 inches wide, and so we'll talk a little bit about yardages in a minute, but the fabric was perfect for this dress. The fabric I used is the Phoenix motif, and the color is tuxedo brass. I really love it because I'm going to wear it with like either black boots or something, and put a black scarf on it when I go out and stuff. So I really wanted to do something with this fabric, and I think it looks absolutely wonderful. Today, during this pattern review, in the past I have done some additional construction where we go through the process pretty quickly so that you can see how easy or any little tricks and techniques that you might need to make a garment. Today I'm not going to go through any of the construction. I want to briefly tell you about the steps I went through so you know what that is. It is a simple beginner pattern, so feel comfortable with that. What I want to talk about today is more fit and how to read some of these patterns, because I found this one in particular to be very interesting. So I'm going to share some of those tips and techniques with you when it comes to fit and how to measure yourself and how that compares to what you see in the patterns and how some of the pattern jackets are written. But first and foremost, from a construction perspective, I made a size. This particular pattern goes by letters. So it is extra small, small, medium, large, on and on and on. This I made based off the body measurements, a large, and graded it at the hips as I normally do. That's the other thing we're going to talk about. But this is simply a stitch up your shoulder seam. I did use stay tape in mine. I like to use a little bit of reinforcement at the shoulder, sometimes around the neckline, but in this particular one, just at the shoulder. That is not in the pattern, but always remember your stay tape. I inserted the sleeve in the arm opening. I then finished off the edge of my sleeve with a nice little serge so that I don't have to do it when it's all tight and round. Then I stitched up from the sleeve opening all the way down to the hem with my side seams. Finished the hem and added the neckline. I know that's kind of in kind of a strange sequence, but that's what I do. The neckline is a simple neckband, and I selected the boat neck view, so it's a simple neckband to finish off the neckline. So it's very, very simple. A couple things about the fit. The sleeves are quite long, so definitely measure or use your measuring guide that you may have in your home with how long you like your sleeve, and cut off or don't cut as much off your pattern for your sleeve. I ended up having to cut 2 inches off the length of the sleeve for the long sleeve, so it is quite long. I made the boat neck. You have other options. You can make a V-neck or a round neck. The pattern is very versatile. It's very great for various options. You can make a sleeveless, short sleeve, 3/4 length or long. This one I wanted to make a long sleeve for the fall. And you can also make it as a above the knee, a T-length, or a maxi length. So it's great for that perspective. So there really aren't any tricks to sewing and constructing this garment. Let's talk a little bit about fit and how I read this pattern. The pattern jacket, as you will know, has all of the measurements up on, the newest ones now do anyway, they're up on the top of the envelope. And then there's your finished garment measurements. And they list the most important pieces of them, whether they be the length, the ease around the touch points that matter, like your bust and your hips. So you'll see all of that information on the back of the pattern. That'll get you going. It'll get you, the goal of that is to understand how it will fit you and how much yardage you need to buy for your specific version that you want to make. What first tipped me off with this particular pattern and made me kind of think, oh, I'm going to have to make a muslin, is the fact that it's written for a knit, and the measurements that I would use for myself did not have a negative ease. So I expected that. I expected either, for example, bust of 39, I'm going to end up with a fit of a 39 or a 38. So that your garment stretches on you. You want the garment that they recommend, or the fabric that is recommended, to fit properly with the design of the pattern. This one did not have that. It has positive ease, where it will not fit snug, and you may want that. That'll be fantastic for you. So I like it where it doesn't fit me snug at the waist nor the hips, but I like it to fit, to show a nice slope from right underneath my arm down to the hem of the garment. So I like it to fit a little bit more snug around my top area, the bodice of the dress. So that's how I'm looking at this garment. But first of all, it did not have negative ease. It has positive ease. So that kind of got me to think I better really pay attention to this pattern. And I was sort of rushing, as I do every now and again, and made this garment without making a muslin. So I broke my own rule, which is terrible, and probably won't do that again. But I did have to make some adjustments after the fact. But I want to take you through what I learned from this pattern, and always gets me thinking to always follow the steps that you're taught when you are trying to fit a pattern. The one other thing that I also want to note is I am learning to always save my notes from the various pattern companies. For example, McCall's, I'm learning that every adjustment that I make to a McCall's pattern is very similar, and I'll take you through some of that today. I also have, in the past, most recent past on our website, have been posting and showing garments that I have made from the designer of Itch to Stitch. And she has a website that has amazing patterns on them. And so I've learned how her designs fit me as well. And I can always count on starting with a size 10 with an itch to stitch pattern, and then knowing what changes or what I need to really pay attention to in the design of the next garment, depending on anything that she has added to her designs. And so I know how to make a muslin of that and just double check that everything is going to fit right. So I know how to adjust her patterns. McCall's, I really wasn't doing the same thing, and I don't know why. But what I want to show you is this. I'm going to show you the difference between what I started with and what I ended up with making this pattern layout. I always trace my patterns. First and foremost, that is a good practice for you to do, is always trace your patterns. Whether you use a regular tissue paper that you might use for gift wrapping or Swedish tracing paper, whatever you use, continue to use it. So my first step is to always measure yourself at your key touch points, okay? Write those down. Or circle the pattern. That's what I typically do, is circle the size on the pattern, both your body measurements and your finished garment, so you know where you're headed with this. Then I take my tape measure and I actually measure the physical pattern and compare my measurements to what I can estimate as a finished measurement. It's just a double check. So I will, this particular pattern for the dress, and a lot of the McCall's patterns, it recommends a 5/8 inch seam allowance, and it incorporates that seam allowance in your physical pattern. So I will take the waist, for example, from the fold over to the edge of that size that I think is the size for me, subtract 5/8 of an inch, and I kind of do a little estimate. So that is the front of my garment. I do the same step for the back. I add them together and say, okay, so that's going to fit me pretty well. And I just do those basic steps from the bust, the waist, and the hip. That gets me started, okay? What I didn't do on this particular pattern was the measurement from the shoulder down to underneath the arm. That is where I am shorter than most McCall's and Simplicity patterns. I don't need as much of a space here. And I found with this particular pattern that if I lifted up my shoulders like that, I was able to take about 1 inch to 1.5 inches off the pattern piece, and it would fit me properly. By doing this adjustment in your shoulder, you also have to adjust your sleeve as well. And on the pattern pieces, I have handwritten what my original size should have been based off the guidance on the pattern jacket and what actually was reality. So here is the front. Here's my tissue. I use Swedish tracing paper, but here's my tissue for the front that I made my garment from. It shoulder, neckline, you'll see the curve here, the neckline, the arm, and the shape of the dress. I'm going to get a little closer here and show you what reality was. I had to take 1 inch off, fold it down here. I had to add a little bit of tissue paper over here to change the slope of the neckline as well. So 1 inch off there. And then I left this line here for just show so that you could see the difference. So by taking this off, lifting it up, I have lifted up my sleeve, and then I needed to cut in. And with that point there, take in my dress another inch. Now this is only on the front piece. So then I went back, looked at my back piece, did the same thing. I had to take, as you'll see here, this is the original pattern. So I had to take the inch to inch and a half off, and it's graded a little bit because not our shoulders are not straight. And then here's the line where I had to cut and then grade, again, taking another inch off the pattern. There simply was too much ease in the pattern for the fabric that they recommend, which is a knit. And the outside markings on this pattern, which most everybody has, shows that you need to be able to stretch your knit this amount. Well, if you need that much stretch, then the ease should be either your measurement, your finished body measurement, or it should be a negative ease. So if I'm a 39, it should be either 39 or 38 or 38 and a half, or something that fits a little snugger and lays on you. And it isn't that way with this. So definitely take that into consideration when you're making this dress. Then, since I changed the front and the back of the pattern pieces themselves, we have to adjust our sleeve. And the sleeve here, I had to bring the sleeve opening up. And so the original sleeve is down here. You see the lower slope on both sides. And so I had to bring it up so that it wasn't as big of a sleeve opening as the pattern's design. I also had to cut off about, and this is an individual thing depending on your sleeve length, your arm length, and how long you like to have your sleeves, but I had to cut 2 inches off the pattern piece for the sleeve and adjust that because it was just simply too long for me. I'm 5'7", 5'8", and so I do have, I don't know, I guess they're average arms, but I found it interesting that I had to cut the 2 inches off. It would have been way too much. So all in all, oh, and then there's a fourth pattern piece, which is your neckband, because I was making view C, which is the boat neck. And so it sits higher. And so here is the neckband for the boat neck. And the adjustment I'm going to make on this for my next one is I don't want it to stand so high. It is, once you have folded your jersey in half, it's about 1 1/8 inches before it's sewn on to the garment. So the finished neckband is almost 1 inch. And I think what I would like to do is make this smaller, narrower, so that I don't have such a high neckline standing above my my neck. So that's the only other thing that I'm going to do with this particular dress. But with the adjustments that I made to the pattern and knowing where I started from and what I needed to do, it really made for a successful dress. I mean, I really love how it turned out, and it fits so much better than it did the first time. I mean, truly having to lift up your shoulders that much just to get the fabric away from underneath here makes a huge difference. So a muslin is really important to start with, or at least use a prior garment pattern as well. That is something that I might often do if I am in a hurry or feel uncomfortable about a pattern and just want to kind of increase how fast I make something, is I could take a pattern piece from another garment that I know how it fits me with a similar style, lay it on top of the pattern that I'm about to make, and it'll give me a very good indication of how it will fit if I were to just use the pattern as is. So that's something that you can do as well, is look for something in your pattern collection that fits the same way. You could take any t-shirt that you absolutely love, a t-shirt pattern that you would have used the same fabric for, the same jersey knit for, and if it fits you lovely and you just love it, take that pattern piece, lay it on top of your new pattern that you want to make, and make your adjustments and make your muslin off of that. And that'll just get you one step closer. And I am finding that when working with McCall's patterns, a lot of them are a similar design and a similar measurement. And so I kind of know where to start. And that's encouraging, because I love some of the styles. And I'm never discouraged by not using one simply because of how the pattern fits. We're all a different size and we're all made differently. And so we need to adjust the patterns to fit ourselves. And so that was the one thing that I found to be the most important thing about this very, very simple and fast dress to make, is taking the time to size it right and to size it for you. And when it comes to this particular dress, I probably would not have had to grade. I typically grade from my bust down through my waist into kind of a little bit of a flowy hip, okay? I wouldn't need to do that with this pattern because it was already included in the design of the garment itself, and the pattern reflects the level of curve that it had built into it. And so that was perfect. So let me recap a couple things. One, it is a simple pattern. It is fun to make. It's a great style. It gives you a lot of different options. And whether or not you want a V-neck, a round neck, a boat neck, sleeve lengths, and the garment length itself, it is a wonderful, wonderful pattern for that. Just remember to always use stay tape, regardless of whether or not the pattern tells you to. Do it. You're working with a knit, so it's great to just always use those simple techniques that you've learned. And other than that, enjoy making this pattern. I think it is wonderful and you will love it, and it'll be your dress to go to when you need some fall and winter ideas, especially out of the cotton jersey knit. On our website, you will see our jersey knit as well as the fashion duo for this particular dress. And if it's not already there, I'm going to make sure that we include the options for the various lengths, because that will change the yardage that's needed. And for this length dress, just to give you an idea, this is view C, I believe, which is just right above the knee. And you'll see a picture of me wearing this dress as well, but it's just right above the knee and long sleeve. And I was able to use 1.5 yards of our 72-inch wide jersey knit to make the dress. Of course, the longer the garment, the more yardage you will need. And I'll also make sure that I incorporate all of the sizes if they're not already there, so that we get the right size for you as well. Let's see, anything else? But anyway, so the fashion duo will be there. The patterns are there individually, and the fabric is there individually. No other notions are needed except a recommendation to use the stay tape. And enjoy making this. And we will see you on the next video, and have a great day.